Bruce Chambers, Jr., and I was in the Army, and then I finished out as an E4. But basically, there was three of us that joined the same time in 2006. Daniel O'Leary, which God rest his soul, he passed away in a vehicle rollover in Iraq. And then Vance Rigsby, he got med boarded out, but he got injured while in Iraq. He was with the 4th ID. I was with the 3rd ID. I did a 15-month combat tour to Iraq in 2007 to 2008. But those guys, I joined with those guys at the same time, and it was, it was my goal to be able to go through schooling through the Army as well, to get the GI Bill, and then I wanted to serve my country as well, just as my family members did before me, my dad, my granddads, even I believe there's a family member that I've learned was in World War I. So, I don't know how far back it goes that my family probably, fought different wars throughout this, not just decades, but centuries. So it's pretty interesting. That's why Combat Cafe had a lot of family that was in combat, and I was in combat type stuff, and there's a lot of veterans around the area that are combat veterans, and it's an awesome way to be able to serve them through that. I wanted to be a soldier. I wanted to do the land thing, and and I ended up being a Cav scout with 3-1 Cav, 3rd Brigade, 3rd ID, and it was it's an honor to be able to serve, and to be able to do what I did, and it's war is not pretty, no matter what era, no matter what war, no matter what conflict or whatnot. But guys that go through a lot of that stuff, they build bonds, and and the camaraderie and the survival mode. So having Combat Cafe, it gives me a way to give back to those people that have kind of been through that stuff. Also, we can adjust fire, and we can serve the community as well as being able to serve our brothers and sisters or veterans and whatnot as well. So it's like a win-win situation as when it comes to that stuff as well. I focused all my time and all my energy into my job, my position, and that was to be a Cav Scout with the U.S. Army, and that was the eyes and the ears of the Army, and that's a pretty, it's a pretty big thing to uphold. My thing was I wanted to be in the action, so to say. I wanted to, I felt that I could maybe make more of a difference being on the front line versus being on the back line. So, and that's why looking at the different job titles, like I want to be combat, but I didn't want to be like an infantry guy. I chose Cav Scout, more versatile, different, which is kind of in the infant nowadays. I guess it's kind of all meshed together with the combat arms related guys. But at the time, like I was a Cav Scout, and then the other guys were tankers, and then we were kind of always attached together. So we were heavy, mechanized infantry, and we were basically my Cav unit was assigned to the the 3rd Infantry Division, 3rd Brigade, 3rd Infantry Division. So we were their Cav unit in that division. So essentially, I went to Fort Benning, and I was in the infantry division. So I went to where my buddy did his basic training. That was my duty station. And then we went to training at NTC, and then we went to combat shortly after. I was deployed March 2007 to May 2008, and then we went to Kuwait to get established and get set up, and then we pushed to Baghdad, BIOP, and then after that we went and we pushed over by the Narwan brick factory and established Fob Hammer for the 3rd Brigade, 3rd ID, and then we took Chinooks there, and then from Fob Hammer, once we got that established, we maneuvered out and we set up Cobb Comanche, a 300-man combat outpost on Saddam Hussein's nuclear testing facility, and ran missions out of that off the Tigris River in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom 5 is what it was, and then support the 3rd ID from Stewart on the other side of the river, and then gain total fire superiority over the river. Had battle positions. They had their side battle positions, we had our side battle positions, and tried to minimize IED making material or whatever. They're trying to transport a lot of different stuff through the river, so we had to do some things there. And then but we ran most of our missions around that area of operation, around the Saddam Hussein's nuclear testing facility. So Tuwaitha, Iraq is the main area that we were frequent in. We went through our hardest times in June and July, the summer of 2007. That's where we lost Greeka. Stepped on an anti-personnel landmine on a dismounted patrol one day. And then a week before that, I got rocked with a 400-pound IED, and there was a secondary IED that took my buddy Ennis's Bradley out, because this is off the Tigris River, and you have 2 Bradleys in the north, 2 Bradleys in the south, and I got IED'd, and then they came to help us out, and then they got IED'd, so 2 blasts, and then there was an ambush. I was unconscious for a minute, then I woke up, and then my CVC was unplugged, plugged it back in, got comms with my track commander and my gunner, and I'm like, hey, can I get out? Can I do something? He's like, no. He's like, stay there. He's like, wow. First of all, I thought I was dead, because they didn't know exactly what's going on. I was unconscious for maybe 15 minutes or so, is what I can gather from it, 10 to 20 minutes, but around that time. And then, I get through that stuff. There was we had the 9 line in us out that day, but there was no fatalities that day. But yeah, a week after that's when Greeka got hit, and we've been hit different, because what they'll do is they'll do the same thing, and then they'll set more IEDs up, and we'll hit them again. They'll try to ambush us. It's like a game, and we try to find them when they're putting the IEDs out, whatever. But it was basically every week at that point in time, you could expect to get hit with something. You just didn't know when. Okay. But after we got off that route, we did missions in the other areas, and it was a lot less frustrating than that specific mission or whatnot. There's a lot of different missions that we did throughout there's tons of different missions we did. Just our first initial one was just pretty chaotic, and you grew up really fast. The experience was different at times. There's pros and cons. I felt pretty confident in my team. Felt confident that we were always going to be good to go. We used to say every day is a good day to die once we rolled out the gates, because you get prepared you're always preparing for the worst, hope for the best. So we were so prepared for the worst that when it did happen, we were already prepared for it. So we were one step ahead of the game, and that kind of helped me get through, because I knew that I was with a bunch of solid guys that could take care of each other. When I got back from Iraq, I started to do things to kind of help me sleep better, or it didn't work out so well basically with what I was doing. I tested hot on a urinalysis, and then they had a 0, 1 strike policy, you're done. There was a handful of guys, handfuls of guys plus, that were dealing with things after the deployment that were getting out of the service a lot earlier than they wanted to at that time. And I was dealing with things like, I was dealing with nightmares, I couldn't sleep, I was dealing with so much different stuff. And then one day I locked myself into a hotel room in South Carolina. I was in Benning at the time when we got back from Iraq, because I went back to Benning for my duty station. And I locked myself into a hotel room in South Carolina for almost a month. And then I finally came back to Benning because I wanted to get some help. I didn't want to. At that time I was considered AWOL, but for me, I needed to escape. I needed to get away, and I didn't know how to mentally adjust myself, because we were always under the gun for, hey, we don't want to see you in the we don't want to see you in the TMC or the hospital. You're tough, you're a soldier, you're hardcore. It's but there's more to it than just that. There's also mental levels, and not understanding exactly what was going on with myself at the time, because I was an awesome soldier, and I have great leadership, and I always completed my missions, and I was always on point. I got E4 in no time at all. I was about to go for my sergeant. I was about to go to the board, and I was about to get my sergeant, my E5, and then I was about to go on another deployment with the 3rd ID once they went back over. So in my mind, I wasn't really ready to get out when I got out, but at the same time, if I didn't go through those things that I went through, then I wouldn't be here today to help others out that maybe need the help that they need. I went through therapy at UCF Restores. They've been a huge way for me to kind of get through all this stuff. They have a exposure therapy that they do, and they've learned different things, I'm sure, over the course of the years. I think I went in 2012 is whenever I went through the programs. 2021 now, so years fly by. Mm-hmm. But I was able to go through that program, and I didn't have nightmares afterwards. I can say proudly that we have Sergeant Grieca's table, the Grieca table, which is our fallen soldiers table, inside our honor room inside Combat Cafe. So for me, it's huge. So we're able to honor him. So people that soldiers that get forgotten about, we don't want them to be forgotten. I was able, through UCF Restores and through I was working at Sunrise Grill in Tavares. They were lenient with me, and I was trying to integrate back into the civilian lifestyle and working and everything, but it worked out. I met they're really awesome people at Sunrise Grill. They taught me how to cook, and then I was going through my stuff around that time too. They put up with me, but not just. I gained a lot of good networking, business coaches through different things like that. Once I went through the therapy, I branched out, and I was able to I started to serve. So I wasn't so shunned away from the world and back in a kitchen anymore. I was able to move forward and able to do different things and serve in different ways. So it was huge. I did a year at Cracker Barrel in Leesburg, Florida. And I needed to do that, so it was my last piece of the puzzle, so I can move forward with my own operation and mission. And I got that knocked out, so I'm appreciative of serving there for a whole year. It went on the lines. I met a lot of guests that actually come into here through Cracker Barrel because they were veterans there, and it's huge for me to be able to see their veteran hat on, and I just see something that I know, qualifying questions or qualifying different things, and you can kind of know if what's what. And I met some really nice souls in there, and there's handfuls, not one, not two, not three, not four, more, a couple more handfuls of guests that I served at Cracker Barrel, that I served at Combat 1, that I served at Combat 2, but are no longer with us anymore. So being able to honor them and serve them in the last stretch is huge too. So, because it's comforting almost sometimes, for some of these guys that come in here. And a Vinny's one, because Vinny's SOS is on the menu. And Dave is his son. He's the Army guy, and then Vinny was Navy. And but it's just nice to see like smiles on their faces, even though they're going through some like medical stuff and dealing with stupid stuff. But just to see them, just be happy and just be able to be with them. So I don't know. It's a lot of good stuff, because it's more than just breakfast and lunch. It's more than just it's more than food sustenance. It's just like it's a whole thing. Like you can get nourishment mentally and physically, like here. So it's pretty cool. Because I was a combat soldier, and there was a lot of combat veterans that I've met around the area, or I've met different combat veterans that kind of were going through some of the stuff that I was going through, or dealing with different things, and they were getting help as well, or just even the ones that don't need help. It's still cool that I've found a lot of those guys around town, and it's like I wanted a way to give back to not just the combat veteran community, the whole veteran community, and then the whole community as a whole. So it was my way to focus on a certain select few, because there's very, very few combat veterans out there. Realistically, I think like 2% of Americans join the service, and now the 2% of the Army, or out of all the Army, I think 1 or 2% is combat arms. So, and that's just the Army. But I wanted to combat your hunger as well. So it was something that most people didn't know how to take it at first. A lot of people thought we were like a shooting range, or like a game place, or just different things. But my thing is, I was a combat arms guy. My granddad, he went through combat. It was just it all kind of. I've been fighting my whole life for what I believe in, and fighting for others around me. And it was just like I've combated all kinds of stuff. Like, what can we combat next, but in a positive way? So my goal was take combat with something that's looked at like negatively, so to say. But if you look at it, like, we're all here today because of all the combat that has happened over centuries and whatnot. So we're all the survivors of the wars throughout our history. So, and that's another thing with the combat stuff. But we want to combat hunger, we want to combat negativity, we want to combat homelessness, we want to just combat a lot of the things that are kind of plaguing today's society type stuff. So we stay focused on our mission, on getting everybody fed with the breakfast and lunch, but also we are working on different options, and working with different organizations to expand our reach on like helping the community in different ways. We have a van right now that's been donated to us that we are trying to find a home for. We did find a home for this specific homeless veteran, but then he actually found a home and he's no longer homeless. So then we have this van that can be utilized as a live-in van as well. It's like a conversion van. But now we're trying to talk with this one organization that we could probably give it to, and they can utilize it for different veterans for whatever usage that they might need it or whatnot. Something that I never been through before, never been donated a vehicle before to give to somebody. So that's pretty interesting stuff. But that's some of the good stuff that surrounds Combat Cafe. It all comes back to that. But yeah, if you were looking into joining the services, after high school or whatnot, I definitely would recommend it. Definitely, for the betterment of, you as a person, and and if you as a person are squared away and geared towards certain things, then you can help everybody out as a whole when you all work together. Because teamwork is what it all comes down to. Definitely couldn't do it by myself, but like all the stuff on the walls donated from different people, different generations, different services, different eras. Like, it's just, but it's all like one common goal. Like, hey, we love this place. It's our home. and we're gonna fight for it. We fought for it then, we'll fight for it now, and it's awesome. I mean, I asked God for two things within the last 5-10 years, and it was to have 2 more arms, because I wish I had 4 arms sometimes, and then one was to have a time machine, because I really wanted a time machine, like really bad. And obviously they haven't figured that stuff out yet. Maybe quantum physics, maybe they have, I don't know. But essentially he gave me my wife, which is my other 2 arms, and then he gave me this restaurant, which is my time machine. So it's like huge for me. And it's not just about us, it's about everybody else. It's about their stories. It's about what they got going on too, because every story is important. No matter what position, no matter what this, not even if you're combat arms or not, it's everybody's got their place somehow, and just trying to help everybody out. So.